This is Gemara Nedarim Daf Zayin. We're holding on the very bottom of Vavam and Bees, the final line. We pulled up a drop short, apologies. The Gemara asks in the last three words, Vehecha Iskish. And where is the Hekish? Now, just to catch ourselves up, exactly what is going on over here, I'm middle of discussing the concept of Yadais by Peah. We had a bunch of different discussions of Yadais yesterday, and the final one was with regard to Peah. Do we say that Peah is Iskish, is equated, the Torah puts it next to Karbanos, and just like Karbanos, as the Gemara explained 3 lines on the bottom, Yesh Yad, so too by Peah Yesh Yad? Or perhaps no, that the equation between Peah and Karbanos was only with regard to Baal Ta'acher, that you can't delay, or not. So the Gemara now says, Ve'echa Iskish. Okay, so in reality, where is this Hekish that you're talking about between Peah and Karbanos? Titania, as we learned in our Braisa, and we turn over to Zayin Amid Aleph, says the Gemara, Titania, as we learned in our Braisa, Me'amecha, says Me'imach, says the pasuk, from your nation, Zeh Leket Shichan Peah. And this pasuk is referring to Zeh Leket Shichan Peah, so therefore, this is where the Torah equates Karbanos to Peah. So from the fact that the Torah puts the two of them together in Devarim, teaches us that there's a potential equation between the two of them. Now, again, the Gemara does not deal with the Shaila. Is there Yadais by Peah or not? The Gemara leaves open-ended. And we continue on the top of Zayin and Aleph, in which the Gemara asks, Yesh yad litzdaka or ein yad litzdaka? Is there a din of yadais by tzedakah or not? What exactly does this mean? Says the Gemara, like we saw yesterday, and the first part of today's shir is going to be very, very similar to that which we saw yesterday, meaning it's going to be the same basic question and answer as we're going to see. So, Echidami, ilay madamar hadin zuzah litzdaka. If the case is where a person said, this zuz, this coin is tzedakah, and then he followed up with a yad, that what? V'hadin nami, and this one also. So says the Gemara, as we saw many times yesterday, how tzedakah atzmahi. That is giving tzedakah. That's not a yad, that's not unclear, that's how you didn't finish your sentence. That is absolutely perfectly clear. And therefore, says the Gemara, that would not be a question. Going to Amar Hadin. You said, this coin is tzedakah. And then he said, and this. You didn't say, and this also. V'loy Amar Nami, and you didn't say also. 5 lines from the top. Zayin Amid Aleph. What is the din? Hadin Nami tzedakah kamar. Do you mean to say this one also should be tzedakah? Or perhaps, Hadin, what does he mean on this one also? Nami lafkusa ba'alma kamar. What he means to say is, it should also be used for expenses. And he didn't finish his statement, meaning he's talking about money. This one is tzedakah, and this one, it's to pay for my gas bill. And this one is for something else. He didn't finish the sentence. So when someone says v'hadin, if someone says a yad by tzedakah, does it work or not? Says the Gemara, mi amrina. Now what are the stadim? What's the shaila? Mi amrina, do we say kiv deiskish karbanos? Since tzedakah is equated to karbanos, the chesiv, as the Torah says, b'fich on your mouth, zut tzedakah, ma karbanos yesh yad have tzedakah, yesh yad, and therefore just like karbanos have a din of yad, so do tzedakah. Domino, lebal da'acharu de'iskish. And again, the Gemara leaves it open-ended and moves on to yet another question. Yesh yad lehefkar oy Dilma ein yad lehefker. What is the status of a yadais, a impartial or a partial statement with regard to hefker? Says the Gemara, hainu tzedakah. What's the question? This is literally the exact same thing as tzedakah. So explains the Gemara, the shaila. The Gemara is going on that side of tzedakah. And now we explain. If you're going to tell me that there is a din of yadis by tzedakah. Why? That whenever you equate something together, we equated tzedakah to karbanoi, so it's going to be absolute. So hefker mi amrina and hainu tzedakah. So do we say, now that we know there is a din of yadis by tzedakah, the same thing is by hefker? I don't know. Shiny tzedakah, the tzedakah lo chazia el aniyim. Maybe tzedakah is different because tzedakah is only fit for aniyim. Aval hefker, paying the aniyim, paying the ashirim. And that is another shayla, which again, the Gemara leaves open-ended without answering. And now we continue moving along to the last narrow line. Asks the Gemara the following shayla. Ba'i Ravina, yesh yad lebeis hakisei oiloi. Is there a din of yadais for a toilet, for a bathroom? Now, what exactly does this mean? Explains the Gemara, if the case is where someone said this house, this structure should be designated as a bathroom, and then he said this one also, again, that's obvious, of course, as a din of a bathroom. With all the various halachas of a bathroom, you can't say Torah, you can't wear your tefillin, etc. So says the Gemara, you know what the shayla is? You didn't say v'adin nami, you said ve'hadin. V'loy amar nami, and you didn't say also. Mai, what's the din? Hadin da amar, v'adin nami beis hakisei. When you said, and this one also, did he mean to say, and this one also, excuse me, incorrect. When he said, and this one also v'adin, he meant to say, this one should be a beis hakisei. Or what do you mean to say? He didn't mean to say that this other structure should be used for a bathroom. He doesn't matter. He's going to use this structure for general usages. So says the Gemara, based on this is to remember the Shaila of Ravina, as we learned on the last narrow line. Michlal, the Shaila points out and seems it sounds like by the fact that Ravina is asking, is there yadais? Sounds like Ravina for sure holds is a din of zimun. There's a din of designation. Now when I designate this as a bathroom, it has the din of the bathroom with all various pertinent halachas like we mentioned. Ravina, but says Gemara, it's not true. Ravina himself asked this as a shayla. What is the din if someone designates something as a beis hakisei? What's the din if someone designates something as a beis hamerchatz? So ask the Gemara, how can you tell me that it's obvious? Zimun moil ain't zimun moil. Ravina chada migul chada kami baile. Similar to what we saw the other day, Ravina is asking on that side. Zimun moil, or ain't zimun moil. Number one, Ravina has a shayla. Does it help designation? If you hold that designation helps on that side, yesh yad, excuse me, oyein yad, and the Gemara concludes, tiba ilay, leave it as a shayla, which is the same wording as teku that we have to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi. Yesterday we mentioned how often we find throughout Nedarim the wording's a little bit different, and in truth this came from, we didn't mention yesterday, this is really the Rosh on Daf Beis and Beis, in which the Rosh over there points out that Lashon Nedarim Mishoneh, often throughout the Masechta we find a little bit different terminologies than we find elsewhere in Shas. And now we continue 3 lines from the bottom, quoting the next statement of the Mishnah, in which Rav Akiva said, if someone says, I am minudah to you, Rav Akiva was choichich, he was unsure, lahachmir. Rav Akiva ruled stringently. So Amar Abaya, 3 lines from the bottom, on Zayin Amar Alpha, Abaya rules, Rav Akiva, they need malchus, she'inoi like it. Rav Akiva was unsure, so he says, is a din of a nidui, but you don't get malchus. Why? How do I know that, says Abaya? Dim Kain. Because if it's not true, and if Rav Akiva really held that you get malchus, Nisi Rav Akiva machmer. We should have said it for the fact Rav Akiva is machmer. But the Mishnah didn't say that. Very precise. The Mishnah said, choichech lahachmer. He's nervous. And that's why he's strange. That shows us that he holds that we have to be machmer, but there's be no din of malchus. Omar Rav Papa, continues the Gemara in the second last line. Benedina minach. If someone said the word of I am in Nadina, I'm detached from you. That for sure means a Neder and you're also. Mishamtana minach. Someone says I am in Shamta from you, I'm excommunicated from you. A term that Bezdin could put someone into Nidui, into Shamta. Lukuli al Mashari. Everyone holds that you're not in Nidui, because one cannot say and put themselves into an excommunication. But Ma'ik Pligi, what is the machlekes? As we turn over to Zayin and Beis, so what is the machlekes? What is the shaila? Says the Gemara, you know what it is? B'menuda ani lecha. The shaila is going to be when someone says, I am in nidui to you. I am menuda to you. Rav Akiva Savar, the top line of Zayin and Beis, Lishta diniduyo, that when someone says menuda nilacha, it's the same thing as niduya, detachment, and therefore it's going to be machmer, it's going to be called a good neder. Rabban and Sari Lishan Misham Tano. No, when someone says I am menuda lecha, says the Rabban, that means it's as if he said I am in shamta to you, which we said is not a good neder. So says the Gemara, says Rav Papa, when someone says Nidina minach, it's for sure yes aser. Mishamtana minach, it's for sure not aser. Minuda anilach, that is this gray area that the Gemara is explaining. And now the Gemara points out that Rav Papa is upliga de Rav Chisda. Rav Papa, third line, Zayin Mabei, is arguing Rav Chisda. Do Gav, there's a man that Amar Mishamtana bin Chasei. Debrei de Rav Yirmiyah Barabba, that said, I am in Shamta, I'm excommunicated regarding the properties of Rav Yirmiyah Barabba. Also, like Rav Chisda, they came to Rav Chisda, Amar Lei, last Lachash La, and Rav Chisda responded, you don't have to be worried about it, no one is concerned, the Hadar Rav Akiva, no one's concerned with the opinion of Rav Akiva. So what do we see from Rav Chisda's response? We see clearly that Rav Chisda holds that even in this case of Mishamta, there is a machlekes Rav Akiva and the Rabban, and that's why Rav Chisda said, don't worry, no one knows of Rabbi Akiva. But we say that Rav Chisda is learning not like Rav Papa. Rav Papa said there's no machlekes in this case. Rav Chisda is saying that there is. Continues the Gemara on the eighth line. Amar Rav Illa Amarav. Nidau b'fanav ein matir. Once we got into the topic of nidui, of excommunication, says Rav Illa, someone puts someone into nidui, he excommunicates him in front of him. Matir lo yel b'fanav. You can only take him out of excommunication in front of him, because we don't want people to think that there's no power to bezdin it. But if we put him into nidui when he wasn't there, then matir lo bein b'fanav. Then you could take him out of the nidui, even not in front of him, because there's no concern, because everyone will know. Just like the Bezdin put him into Chayrim, not in front of him, they as well took him out. And Amar Rav Chanin, Amar Rav, and we conclude with this, not such a high point, but says Rav Chanan in the name of Rav, Hashoimeya Haskaras Hashem Ibi Chaver. So when he hears the mention of the name of Hashem, of course, this doesn't just mean he mentioned the name of Hashem, it means he blasphemies the name of Hashem, it means he mentions the Shem Hashem Levatala. You hear your friend saying such an inappropriate thing about God, you have to put him into Chayrim. And if you do not, who? A strong statement. You heard someone saying bad about God. If you don't say something, it's considered that you yourself are in Chayrim. And explains the Gemara, Shekol Makum Shaskaras Hashem Mitzuyasham Aniyas Mitzuyasham. As we're going to see that Aniyas property is like death, which is like excommunication, putting in Chayrim. So explains the Gemara, whenever there is Askaras, of course it doesn't just mean this Lashon Saginar, this is euphemistic, that whenever there's the mention of the name of Hashem, there's Aniyas found. Aniyas ke Misa. Aniyas has the same status as death. Shenemar ki Mesu kol anashim, all the men died. Of course they did not all die, but rather they were poor. Veitani, and similar to the Brayse, Kol Makish, and also Chameinayim, wherever the Chachamim place their eyes and they look down upon someone, Aimisa, Oini, Amar Rav Abba, Kamini made the Rav in the last narrow line. Rav Huna, Shamis Lahachitza, Davkis Askar Shin Vatala, and they heard this woman saying the name of Hashem, the Vatala. What did they do to her? Shamta, they put her into Chayrim. Shamta lahach itza dafka shein levatala. Excuse me. Shamta v'sharli l'altar papa. So what did he do? He did something very, very interesting. He put her into Cherem, and then right away, he took her out of Cherem. So we're standing in front of Rav Huna. Rav Huna hears this woman say something not nice. He puts her into Cherem and immediately he takes her out of Cherem. Says the Gemara, Shema Mina Tlas. From here we learn 3 dinim. Shema Mina Shemeres Garashim Chavir Zarch Lenadaisi. Number 1, like we learned, you hear someone say something bad about God, you got to put him into Nid, you got to put him into Cherem, got to excommunicate him. Number 2, Shema Mina do b'fanav Matir Leil b'fanav. You put someone into Cherem, you have to take him out of the Cherem in front of him. Ushma Mina number 3, Ein Bei Nidul Afara Veloi Klum. You can put someone into Nido, he learns his lesson, and boom, right away, you could take him out of Nido. He doesn't have to stay there for any amount of time. He could put himself into Cherem, and he can take himself out of Cherem. Of course. How the Tema explains the Gemara, maybe a person in jail can't take himself out of jail, so maybe a Talmud Chacham that puts himself in Cherem can't remove himself. Kamash Malani can. Says the Gemara, Hechi Dami, what's this case of Talmud Chacham putting himself into Cherem? When there was a Talmud, a student in the yeshiva that required to go into Cherem, what would he do? Mishamtis nafshei bereisha. He would first put himself in Cherem, then he would put the Talmud Chacham, the student, to Cherem. So that he did not feel bad as one pshav v'chayil lebeisi shar l'nafshev other shar lei. And then when he came back home, he would first remove himself from Cherem, Rav Huna, and then he removed the Talmud. I'll pick up from here, Mirz Hashem, in the next shiur.